5 things to focus on. After 80, to avoid misery and live a happier, healthier, more fulfilled life. Most people over 80 are miserable not because their bodies are failing, but because they're focusing on the wrong things. They obsess over losses, compare themselves to their younger selves, and let fear shrink their world. Research shows that happy 80-year-olds focus on 5 specific priorities that miserable ones ignore completely. Today, you'll discover the 5 focus areas that separate thriving 80-year-olds from those who are merely surviving. These aren't vague suggestions. They're research-backed priorities that determine your happiness, health, and sense of purpose in your 9th decade. Studies tracking thousands of seniors reveal that those who concentrate on these 5 specific areas report dramatically higher life satisfaction, better physical health, and lower depression rates than peers who ignore them. By the end, you'll know exactly where to direct your energy to make your 80s the most meaningful years yet. Focus Area 1. Social connection over social quantity. After 80, the quality of your relationships matters infinitely more than the quantity. Yet most seniors make the critical mistake of trying to maintain the same broad social network they had at 60. They exhaust themselves with obligations to casual acquaintances, holiday cards to people they barely know, and superficial interactions that drain energy without providing genuine connection. This approach leads directly to isolation, disguised as busyness. Research from the Harvard Study of Adult Development, the longest-running study on happiness, reveals that relationship quality at 80 predicts health and happiness more powerfully than cholesterol levels, income, or any other measurable factor. But here's the key insight. Thriving 80-year-olds deliberately narrow their social circles to a small number of deeply meaningful relationships rather than spreading themselves thin across dozens of shallow connections. This isn't about giving up on people. It's about recognizing that your energy is precious and limited. At 80, you simply cannot maintain the social calendar you managed at 50. Trying to do so leaves you exhausted, resentful, and ironically more lonely because you're never truly present in any interaction. You're performing social obligation rather than experiencing genuine connection. The common mistake is believing that loneliness is solved by more social contact. It's not. Loneliness at 80 comes from lack of meaningful connection, not lack of people around you. You can attend weekly senior center activities, have lunch with different acquaintances daily, and still feel profoundly alone if none of those interactions involve real vulnerability, shared understanding, or mutual care. Thriving seniors after 80 identify their 2 to 5 most important relationships, perhaps a spouse, an adult child, a longtime friend, a sibling, and invest deeply in those connections. They have honest conversations about fears and joys. They ask for help when needed. They show up consistently for the people who matter most. They let casual relationships naturally fade without guilt. An 82-year-old retired librarian described how she transformed her life by deliberately reducing her social obligations. She stopped attending book club meetings that felt like duty, declined invitations from acquaintances she didn't genuinely enjoy, and instead focused entirely on weekly dinners with her daughter, daily phone calls with her sister, and monthly visits with her closest friend of 60 years. Her loneliness disappeared, not because she saw more people, but because every interaction became meaningful. The actionable strategy is ruthlessly protective of your relational energy. Make a list of the people who truly matter, those who accept you completely, whose company energizes rather than drains you, who you can call at 2 a.m. if needed. Prioritize time with them. Say no to everything else without guilt or lengthy explanations. A simple "I'm not able to" is sufficient. Schedule regular, consistent contact with your core people. Weekly video calls, monthly lunches, whatever works, but make it predictable so both parties can count on it. Consistency builds the depth that prevents loneliness. Be vulnerable in these relationships. Share real struggles, not just pleasant updates. Vulnerability creates intimacy, and intimacy is the antidote to the existential loneliness that plagues so many after 80. Most seniors protect their dignity by hiding struggles, which paradoxically increases isolation. Your closest relationships should know your real life, including the hard parts. Focus on quality connection over quantity of contact, and your 80s become infinitely less lonely and far more fulfilling. After 80, continuing to chase productivity, keeping busy for the sake of being busy, leads directly to exhaustion and meaninglessness. Yet most seniors fall into this trap, filling their days with activities that occupy time without feeding their soul. They confuse motion with meaning, and the result is a calendar full of commitments that leave them feeling empty rather than fulfilled. The shift that changes everything is moving from productivity to purpose. Productivity asks, "What can I accomplish today?" Purpose asks, "What matters to me and how can I contribute to it?" This distinction becomes critical after 80, when physical limitations naturally reduce what you can accomplish in traditional productivity terms. Research on successful aging consistently shows that seniors with a clear sense of purpose live longer, experience less cognitive decline, and report significantly higher life satisfaction than those without it. Purpose provides a reason to get out of bed that transcends the daily to-do list. It gives your remaining years direction and meaning that busyness never provides. The common mistake is believing that purpose requires grand achievements or extensive commitments. At 80, purpose is rarely about building something massive. It's about contributing meaningfully within your actual capacity. Many seniors become miserable trying to maintain the ambitious goals appropriate for younger ages, then feeling like failures when they can't keep up. Thriving 80-year-olds identify one or two specific ways they want to matter and focus exclusively on those. It might be being the family storyteller who preserves and shares family history. It could be mentoring a single young person in their former profession. Perhaps it's advocating for a cause they care deeply about through letter writing or phone calls. The scope is narrow, but the meaning is deep. An 84-year-old former engineer found renewed purpose not by volunteering for multiple organizations as he had at 70, but by focusing entirely on tutoring one struggling high school student weekly in math. That single relationship gave him profound purpose. He watched his students' confidence grow, grades improve, and college prospects expand. He mattered intensely to one person rather than marginally to many, and that made all the difference. The practical implementation starts with honest self-reflection. What do you care about deeply? What unique knowledge, experience, or perspective do you possess? Who or what would genuinely suffer from your absence? These questions reveal where your purpose lies. Choose one primary focus, just one. Pour your limited energy into that single channel rather than dispersing it across multiple commitments. Quality of impact matters far more than quantity of activities. Structure your days around your purpose, not random busyness. If your purpose is family connection, dedicate specific time to meaningful conversations with grandchildren rather than filling hours with television. If it's creative expression, protect morning hours for writing or art rather than squandering energy on errands that could happen any time. Eliminate activities that don't serve your purpose. This requires courage because society pressures seniors to stay active without questioning whether those activities actually matter. If the senior centre bingo doesn't connect to your purpose, stop going. Your time is too valuable to waste on meaningless busyness. Communicate your purpose to people close to you. When they understand what matters most, they can support it and avoid asking you to scatter energy on things that don't align with your chosen focus. Purpose after 80 isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters most with the energy you have. That clarity transforms your remaining years from a slow fade into a meaningful contribution that makes your life and the lives you touch genuinely better. After 80, most people waste precious energy worrying about how their aging body looks instead of focusing on what it can still do. They avoid mirrors, feel embarrassed by wrinkles and age spots, and develop a toxic shame about their changing appearance that leads to social withdrawal and depression. This misplaced focus creates misery while ignoring what actually determines quality of life: functional capability. The brutal truth is that your body at 80 will never look like it did at 40, and no amount of worry changes that reality. But what you can control, and what research shows directly correlates with happiness, independence, and longevity, is maintaining the physical capabilities that allow you to live on your terms. Walking without assistance, rising from chairs, bathing yourself, preparing meals, and engaging with the world independently. The people who thrive after 80 have made peace with their appearance and redirected that energy toward preserving function. They don't care if their arms show age spots. They care whether those arms can lift groceries. They don't obsess over thinning hair. They focus on whether their legs can carry them upstairs. This shift from aesthetic concerns to functional priorities transforms both physical and mental health. Why do people neglect this? Because society conditions us from youth to value appearance over function. Advertising, media, and social pressure teach that how you look determines your worth. By 80, this programming runs so deep that many seniors would rather look acceptable while losing independence than look old while remaining capable. They avoid exercise because they're embarrassed to be seen in workout clothes, missing entirely that movement is the key to maintaining the very independence they cherish. An 83-year-old former accountant described her transformation when she stopped caring about her appearance in the gym. For years, she'd avoided the senior fitness center because she felt self-conscious about her aging body in exercise attire. Finally, her doctor's warning about declining muscle mass pushed her past the embarrassment. Within 6 months of consistent strength training, she could carry her own groceries again, rise from low chairs without help, and play on the floor with her great-grandchildren. Her body looked older than ever, but it worked better than it had in a decade. Her happiness soared because she'd reclaimed capabilities she thought were permanently lost. The practical implementation starts with a mindset shift. Every morning, instead of criticizing your appearance in the mirror, assess your capabilities. Can you stand from a chair without using your hands? Can you walk a block without getting winded? Can you reach overhead cabinets? These functional measures matter infinitely more than wrinkles or grey hair. Set capability goals, not appearance goals. Don't aim to look better. Aim to walk farther, stand longer, lift more, or move with less pain. Track these functional improvements, which are achievable at 80, rather than aesthetic changes, which largely aren't. Invest time in movement that preserves function. Even 15 minutes daily of simple exercises, chair squats, wall push-ups, standing on one foot for balance, maintains the capabilities that keep you independent. This isn't about fitness culture or looking athletic. It's about staying able to live alone, travel, and participate in activities that bring joy. Ignore appearance-based judgments from others and yourself. When you catch yourself thinking, "I look too old for this," immediately reframe, "Can I physically do this?" If yes, appearance is irrelevant. If no, that's information about what capability to work on. After 80, you face an unavoidable reality. Loss becomes constant. Friends pass away, health declines, independence erodes, abilities you once took for granted disappear. How you process these losses determines whether your 80s bring peace or bitterness. Most seniors default to grievance, cataloguing everything they've lost, dwelling on what's gone, comparing their diminished present to their robust past. This mental habit creates a misery spiral that accelerates physical and cognitive decline. The psychological research is unambiguous. Seniors who practice genuine gratitude, not toxic positivity, but honest appreciation for what remains, experience better physical health, lower depression rates, stronger immune function, and even longer lifespans than those who focus primarily on losses. Gratitude isn't denying reality. It's choosing which reality to emphasize in your limited mental energy. The distinction matters enormously. Grievance-focused seniors wake thinking, "I used to be able to," and spend their day mourning lost capabilities. Gratitude-focused seniors acknowledge losses but deliberately redirect attention to "I can still." This isn't naive optimism. It's strategic attention management that protects mental health during a season of inevitable decline. Why do people neglect this? Because grievance feels justified and even virtuous. When you've genuinely lost abilities, relationships, and independence, complaining seems like honest self-expression rather than a destructive mental habit. Society also enables grievance by treating it as appropriate for the elderly while expecting younger people to maintain positivity. This gives seniors implicit permission to marinate in bitterness, which destroys their remaining quality of life. An 86-year-old former teacher was drowning in grievance after her husband's death. Every thought began with what she'd lost: her partner of 60 years, her role as a wife, the financial security of 2 incomes, the daily routines they'd shared. A grief counselor challenged her to start each day naming 3 specific things she still had. Initially, she resisted. It felt like minimizing her legitimate pain. But she tried it. "I can still read. I can still call my sister. I can still taste my morning coffee." Within weeks, her depression lifted noticeably. The losses remained real, but they no longer consumed her entire mental landscape. The practical implementation requires deliberate daily practice. Gratitude doesn't happen automatically at 80 when losses are constant. It must be cultivated intentionally against your brain's natural negativity bias. Start each morning with 3 specific gratitudes before getting out of bed. Not vague platitudes like, "I'm grateful to be alive," but concrete specifics. "My knee pain is less today. My grandson called yesterday. I can still prepare my own breakfast." Specificity trains your brain to notice what's working rather than only what's broken. When you catch yourself in grievance thoughts, and you will constantly acknowledge the loss, then deliberately pivot to something present and good. "Yes, I can no longer drive, and I can still walk to the corner store." Both are true. The "and" is crucial. It validates reality while refusing to let loss dominate your entire perspective. Keep a daily gratitude journal with just 3 entries. The act of writing reinforces the neural pathways that notice good alongside difficulty. Over time, your brain becomes trained to automatically balance loss awareness with appreciation for what remains. Express gratitude to others regularly. Thank people specifically for small kindnesses. This strengthens relationships while reinforcing your own gratitude practice. It also makes you someone people want to be around, rather than someone they avoid, because every interaction involves listening to complaints. After 80, most people become obsessed with living longer, counting medications, tracking health metrics, and anxiously monitoring every bodily change. They prioritize quantity of life over quality of contribution, and this misplaced focus creates a paradoxical outcome. Anxiety about death intensifies while meaning in life diminishes. The seniors who find genuine fulfillment after 80 have made a profound shift. They've stopped obsessing over how long they'll live and started focusing on what they'll leave behind. Legacy isn't about wealth, monuments, or being remembered by strangers. It's about the deliberate transfer of what matters most: values, stories, wisdom, love, to people and causes that will continue after you're gone. Research on end-of-life satisfaction shows that seniors who engage in legacy work report dramatically lower death anxiety, higher life satisfaction, and greater sense that their life mattered than those who remain focused primarily on longevity. The psychological benefit is profound. When you shift from "how can I live longer" to "what do I want to pass forward?", you transform from a passive recipient of medical care into an active contributor with agency and purpose. Death becomes less frightening when you know that your most important contributions will outlive you. Why do people neglect this? Because thinking about legacy requires confronting mortality, which terrifies most people. It's psychologically easier to obsess over blood pressure readings and medication schedules than to ask, what do I want my life to have meant? Additionally, society conditions us to view legacy as something only wealthy or famous people create, making ordinary seniors feel their lives aren't significant enough to warrant legacy thinking. An 81-year-old former carpenter spent years anxiously tracking every health metric, convinced that vigilance would extend his life. His doctor finally asked him a penetrating question. If you live 5 more years focused entirely on not dying, versus 3 years focused on what you want to pass to your grandchildren, which life would matter more? That question changed everything. He began recording video stories about his immigration experience, teaching his grandson woodworking skills, and writing letters to each family member sharing the values he hoped they'd carry forward. His health anxiety decreased dramatically while his sense of fulfillment increased. He'd shifted from fearing death to preparing for it meaningfully. The practical implementation starts with identifying what you uniquely have to offer that won't exist after you're gone. This might be family history only you remember, hard-won wisdom from your specific life experience, skills you've mastered, or simply the particular way you've loved the people closest to you. Choose one concrete legacy project and begin it now. This could be recording oral history videos for your family, writing ethical wills, sharing your values, teaching a skill to someone younger, organizing family photos with explanatory captions, or supporting a cause that embodies your deepest beliefs. The specific project matters less than that it gives tangible form to what you want to pass forward. Schedule regular legacy time, perhaps 2 hours weekly, and protect it as fiercely as medical appointments. Legacy work requires energy and focus, which means it must be scheduled, not relegated to whenever I feel like it. Involve others in your legacy work. If you're recording family stories, invite grandchildren to interview you. If you're teaching a skill, find an eager student. Legacy isn't a solo project, it's a transfer which requires recipients. This involvement also creates meaningful connection that combats isolation. The seniors who find peace after 80 have made their mortality productive rather than paralyzing. They've accepted that longevity is largely beyond their control, but legacy is entirely within it. That shift transforms your final years from a fearful decline into a purposeful completion of your life's most important work. Stop worrying about what others think. Their opinions can't determine your worth anymore. Release guilt about things you can't change from your past. It serves no purpose now. Quit comparing yourself to who you were at 50. That person is gone, and mourning them wastes precious time. Abandon perfectionism in daily tasks. Good enough is genuinely good enough. Stop accumulating possessions, simplify instead. Let go of toxic relationships, even family, that drain your limited energy. These releases create space for what actually brings fulfillment in your final years. Your 80s don't have to be miserable. They become miserable only when you focus on the wrong things. Prioritize deep relationships over shallow connections, purpose over productivity, capability over appearance, gratitude over grievance, and legacy over longevity. These 5 shifts transform everything. Start today. Call someone who truly matters. Identify your purpose, move your body, write down 3 gratitudes, and begin 1 legacy project. If this changed your perspective, like this video, subscribe for more life-changing advice for seniors, and share this with someone who needs hope for their 80s.